Good morning, Liz.
Good morning. How are you this morning?
I'm good. How are you?
I am good, considering we were just talking about how I've gotten sucked into Yellowstone, and I was watching that before.
To your horror, by the way, like your horror that you've been sucked into Yellowstone.
Yellowstone is like the car wreck on the freeway that you can't help but stop and look at. It is Yellowstone is so many things, and I told Missy that we could do like a podcast per episode for Yellowstone. It's so
Different show.
I just don't even have words.
Different. It's an entirely different podcast right there.
Yeah, I'm on season 1. I know everybody else is working on season 4, but I'm on season 1, and I'm like,
oh my God, how many seasons are there?
The 4th one is out right now, apparently.
Oh, I better catch up.
Yeah.
What I think is interesting though is today we're talking about inclusion, and and I'm like, I have this great friend, Crystal Walker is her name. And Crystal and I have talked before about the myth of DEI work, right? That companies engage in using the term diversity, equity, and inclusion. For those of you that don't know DEI, now you do. DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. And that companies use those terms to say that they are diverse and equitable and inclusive. And yet, here we are on the heels of this Amazeballs conference, selling tickets like wildfire. Why, Liz? Oh, because we don't have any white mortgage men on the stage.
Yeah.
And some of them would say, well, you're not being inclusive. And to that we say shenanigans. Because here's the thing. About diversity, equity, and inclusion, Liz.
Okay.
When a company says we are diverse, you want to look at the people in upper management, and if it's a publicly traded company, who's on their board, right? Who sits on their board in those positions of power. And you want to really start to look at how diverse, how equitable, and how inclusive are those things. For example, is there a 50-50 split among gender?
Well, are you wanting me to?
No. Like in mortgage, the answer is what?
No.
No. Is there an equitable, like if you had 10 people in a room, would they be diverse in their race and ethnicity? No. But all of these companies have figured out that they have to do something in order to make people feel better. And it becomes really performative. This is I've been having a lot of conversations because I serve on the council for the Longhouse at Oregon State University, our Native American Longhouse at the university. And, we talk about performative land acknowledgements because now that's all the rage, to acknowledge the land that you're standing on that's been stolen from Indigenous people. I bring this up because it's Native American Heritage Month. And so, I'm bringing it up. Yeah. Although we should just be talking about this all the time year round. There should not be just a month because we're avoiding the ugly history of Thanksgiving, right? But one of the things that people are doing is they're starting to do these land acknowledgements, but they're super performative. And one of the things that I love about talking with Dr. Lou Whitebear about land acknowledgements is the very first question you ask is, why are you even doing this in the first place? And that is what I want to bring back to this idea of inclusion. Like, why are companies thinking we need DEI, but why? Like, what's the motivation behind having a DEI person, a staff member, a policy? What is the motivation behind that? And I submit to you, Liz Irish, that the motivation is to look good.
I agree. I 100% agree. And I want to start by saying, when I knew we were going to talk about DEI, I said, I am not qualified to talk about DEI. And I want for the record to say this is an uncomfortable conversation for me as a white woman talking about DEI. And I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to talk for some white women right now. And I'm going to say, we are so scared to talk about this, right? I am so scared to talk about this, but we have to push through it and talk about it. I feel like we're in a marriage and the shit's hitting the fan, and it's not really good. And we have two choices right now. We could just blame it on the other person and refuse to relate and understand, or we can power through really painful conversations and learn from each other and grow and become better human beings. Yeah. And I choose painful conversations and to grow as a human being. So, and I am going to say a lot of shit wrong. I know I am. I just know I am. I grew up in rural America in Southern Oregon in an all-white community. I am going to screw it up. So I am gonna do that for a lot of women out there right now. I have never been through a DEI class. I don't work for a company that has a DEI.
Like when you say I don't work for a company that has a DEI, do you mean like a person or an initiative or a training or any of those things?
Now, SunWest is owned by, for lack of a better way, just to oversimplify, which is horrible, non-white people.
Yeah.
And is run by mostly non-white people. So that makes sense. But had I been in any other previous company, when I first pitched the idea to some people I worked for about having this conference, they said, our company is really great to women and we do lots of good things for women. You must be talking about somebody else. I mean, that's essentially what they said. And I heard that over and over and over again. And I feel like the same thing can be said about race.
Yeah.
Right? We all say, but I'm not racist. And it's very uncomfortable to hear ourselves. So I have 19 and 20-year-old kids that call me out on things I say. I also have this friend called Missy Bird, and she calls me out on things I say.
She's amazing.
Things that I don't even realize.
Yeah.
Things I can't hear myself saying. And I would argue that growing up in a mostly white community, I probably didn't witness racism because there were no brown or black or indigenous people that I knew of.
Right. But you still heard it, right? Like I've been talking about the subtlety of sexism a lot lately, right? Because even if you don't see it outwardly, so this is the thing that's really interesting. There's two things that come to mind when you say that to me. The first thing that comes to mind is that I also grew up in a mostly white, I mean, I grew up in rural Utah. Like, come on, it's not like there was like a whole lot of people of color like running around there, right?
Yeah.
And I still heard racist jokes, sexist jokes. Thank you, Potato. We know you're here. I still heard all of these things. And so we still absorb them, but we don't know what they are and we don't know what to do with them. But we know they make us uncomfortable because we know it's not okay. So what comes to mind for me is that I was recently at a coaching conference for my birthday. That was my birthday gift I gave to myself, was a weekend away. And I was at this conference. And the people at the conference, including the woman running the conference, were talking about DEI in your coaching practice. And I got up and I said, hold the phone here. You're talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion for one group of people. Because often what happens is we only talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion for Black folks. We don't talk about the Hispanic experience. We don't talk about the Asian experience. We sure as shit don't talk about the Indigenous experience, right? And so I got up and I took people to church. Let's be real. Like I got up and I was like talking about the land we are on and that I was in Evansville, Indiana. They have their own Trail of Tears. They had their own race riots. They have this long history of white supremacy, because let's just call it what it is. It's not just racism. And here was the thing that was super interesting. a lot of the women were like, oh, whoa, yeah, I've got to expand my thinking about what DEI means. And I'm like, yeah, you do. Yeah. And I mentioned that I am the great granddaughter of a slave, because I am, because my great grandmother was sold into slavery at the age of 8 to the pioneers. Like the pioneers sold her to a family.
We don't talk about the indigenous peoples.
We don't talk about indigenous people being sold into slavery ever, never. I mean, I only found this out a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
And here I am going, and the only reason I realized that I need to start talking about it is because I sit on the commission for the Episcopal Diocese of Oregon's we are working on an anti-racist dismantling, truth and reconciliation with the church. And one of the women who's on that commission, she said, I'm the great granddaughter of a slave. She's a Black woman, super amazing woman. I love her to bits. She's taught me so much about owning my own identity. And that's when it struck me. I was like,
me too.
Oh, me too. So anyway, I'm at this coaching conference and I talk about this, right? And I talk about how if you're going to do DEI as a coach, especially, you need to put your money where your mouth is and not just talk about Black people, because it's really important not to just talk about the African-American slavery experience, because it's different. You have to talk about it, and you have to talk about all the other things too, including women and sexism, right? So this incredible man who had been working for the place where the conference was taking place came up to me and he said, you made me cry. I have so many things to think about. Like, super amazing old Black dude was like, I've never even thought about things that way. And I was like,
we always think from our own perspective as well.
Right.
All of us think
and I think that's what's important about DEI work, right? It's important about why we're doing this conference. It's important about why from the very beginning, you and I made this decision. It was that we were going to put women of color up on that stage to not just give them a platform, but because we want to hear from all of those different experiences. And redlining still exists, by the way, people.
And we don't want Black women only talking about inclusion and diversity.
Yes.
Right. Black women have so much more to give than to school our asses on inclusion and diversity over and over and over again. Yes. And I can't tell you how excited I am that we get to hear from some really amazing women talk about things other than schooling me.
Yeah, and from so many diverse backgrounds. It's going to be amazing. And this is the thing that I think is so interesting, especially among I say this often, well-meaning progressive people, particularly women. It is that they think that, for example, I was scrolling Instagram this morning, and one of my favorite writers, Caitlin Curtis, who is an Indigenous woman who does a lot of activism in the Christian community, she talked about how she is tired of people holding up Indigenous businesses during Native American History Month, like Awareness Month, whatever the hell we call it these days, because we don't do it any other time of year. It's the same thing with Martin Luther King Day, right? Like, you only talk about him on one day when we should be talking about him all throughout the year. It's the same with Indigenous people, right? Like, why do we wait to hold up these businesses on Hispanic Awareness Month? Or, why do we do that? It's so transparently ridiculous, but it's to make ourselves feel better.
It is, like, we're doing something, right? I had a This Is Us moment. Have you watched This Is Us?
Oh God, yes.
Okay, so when gosh, I forget the characters' names, but he says to his brother, like, have you ever asked me basically about my Black experience growing up with my siblings, right? And I had a This Is Us moment with my Japanese brother-in-law recently. Because he experiences on a regular basis people asking him where he's from, and his son, who is half white, where he's from. And now Hiro he has no idea I'm talking about him, so I'm sorry for talking about you. But Hiro is Japanese and from Japan, and he has an accent. My nephew doesn't. And I think if we just start with the people in our lives, it's a nice, safe place to start. And we can start having those conversations with the people we love in our lives and say, tell me about your experience. Just listen. Just tell me about your experience. Go in with love and no judgment into a safe place and listen to other people's experiences, because I didn't think that that was happening to Hero and my nephew. And it is currently still happening.
Yeah.
Right.
It happens all the time.
Mm-hmm. And so I think everybody should have the "this is us" moment. I think we need to start asking that question to the people we love and people in our lives.
And companies have got to stop engaging in performative DEI.
Mm-hmm.
Like they just have to stop. Like if you really want to do this, then go all the way into the uncomfortable, difficult conversations. And that actually goes back to a conversation that Laura Brandeo and I had a couple of videos ago. Like when you are looking around the room, what does that room look like? Mm-hmm. And if it looks like the whitest space in the world, then you have to do something about that. Mm-hmm. And it starts with asking the people in the room to start to look outside of their comfort zone.
Yep.
We have got to get out of our comfort zone. Yep. It is so important to get out of our comfort zone.
And if we want to stop things like redlining, if we want to stop systematic racism within our own industry, it has to start with us, right? Like, right. Not to quote Michael Jackson, but it's the man in the mirror, right? Or the woman in the mirror in this case.
Yeah.
We have to start right here in our house. Because if we don't do that, nobody else is going to, right?
Yeah. So good. I think that's the end of the message. Like, start looking around your rooms, start looking at your companies, and start asking the hard questions and getting uncomfortable. And buy tickets to our conference because it's going to empower you to do that stuff. So I'll put a link in the comments to buy tickets. $147. We're selling like hotcakes. I'm so excited. The tickets are selling.
I am just amazed and so happy that this whole thing's coming together. So
it's so good. I'm so excited.
Dream come true.
It is. It's great. We're just disrupting the whole thing. I love it. And I love you.
I love you too.
Have a beautiful day.
Everybody have a great day today.
Everybody have a great day today, and let us know if you have any questions too.
Mm-hmm.